What's up, binge watchers? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I'll be doing a non-spoiler review of the period fantasy drama show called The Nevers, Season 1 Part 1. All 6 episodes are now available to stream on HBO Go or HBO Max, and this show is created by Joss Whedon, the writer-director of the first 2 Avengers movies, and among other things. Now, he has decided to step down from this show as the showrunner due to some allegations and controversies, which I'm not gonna share with you guys, but I'm pretty sure you can search them on the net. And the new showrunner now is Philippa Goslet. Anyway, you don't need too much of that insider information. What you need to know is the premise of the show. And the premise of the show is basically there's an alien spaceship hovering over London, and it scattered some spores of light, and whoever gets touched by those spores of light will be granted with gifts or powers, or in here what they call turns. These turns can range from something that's really badass, like the ability to conjure fire, or to something that's more of a hindrance. There's a girl here who can speak every known language with the exception of English, and she can't seem to control what language will come out of her mouth. So that is definitely an inconvenience on her part. So that's just the tip of the iceberg, because this show is a TV show where a lot happens, and I mean a lot. Now, before I continue with this review, I invite you guys, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do so by hitting that subscribe button. We do weekly reviews of movies and TV shows, and while you're at it, please show me some love by hitting that like button, because that really helps the channel. Now, first thing that you're gonna think about this show is it seems to be an X-Men show set in the Victorian age. That's the first impression that you're gonna get, but there are some steampunk elements in here because we're talking about the Victorian age, and I think it's only proper that the show is set on that time because it's the age of illumination where anything is possible. A lot of inventions will take place, so that's where the show gets most of its inspiration from. The people granted here with powers, or what they called as the untouched, are often ostracized by the society because they are the unknown factors. There will be underlying themes of oppression and social injustice. There are a lot of subplots going on for this show. There's a police detective here played by Chaplin, and he's going after a serial killer named Malady. She's actually a touch person herself. There's a demented scientist here who brutally experiments on the touch that he kidnaps. There's a widower here who sponsors the orphanage, who may or may not be acting out from the kindness of her heart. There's also a crime gang here led by a character named Beggar King, who might be playing both sides, trading information pro and against the touch. And then there's an aristocrat pansexual here who runs a brothel that exploits on the touch. So many characters. Like, if you're going to look at the Wikipedia page of this show, there's almost 20 main characters here, so that in itself has its pros and cons. But you know, looking at it, it's mostly cons because it never really gets into the deep of most of the characters, and once you get to realize that some of them are just B-level characters, that their character development does not really exceed beyond their initial characterization or the powers that they are gifted. They're just actually part of this band of misfits. You might be disappointed here because some of the minority here, like blacks and the Asians, they're not really given much depth. They're mostly used as plot devices. So I think it kind of goes contradictory to what the show is going for, which is, you know, fighting for the minority. But you can take it that way, or you can rather just be invested by our main character here. Our main character here is Amalia True, played by Laura Donnelly. She's a very mysterious character because the show does not really give backstory to her. The show just quickly jumps into actions. You don't know her motivations. And I think she's a compelling character because she has this brash style of leadership. She runs the orphanage. Initially, you thought that orphanage is just for safety and for refuge, but she keeps talking about this big mission for the untouched, that they're all for a bigger purpose, which the show does not really explains until episode 6, which the show partly touches. The actress is great here because there's a twist to this character. That twist won't be delivered well if she doesn't have the dramatic range. Also, I have to note that my favorite scene from her action sequence is probably one of the best in TV history, episode 3. I was really glad that I talk to the show, because it seems like this show has a lot of disparate subplots that don't really connect initially, and it requires a lot of faith and patience to the audience, which is rare nowadays because most shows, they tend to spoon feed everything. So it's kind of a risky approach because you might lose some of the audiences along the way if it takes you too long to set up these characters. But then again, we have, as I've said, almost 20 characters here, so the show is at a disadvantage here. But by the time you get to episode 6 or the latter episodes, you can slowly start to see how these subplots connect. There are some hinted histories or motivations that relates one character to another. Plus, it does really help that the script is really engaging. I found it to be witty. I do love the script has this dark humor in it, and the production designs, it's handsomely produced, it's top notch, it's easy to get immersed into that world. So it just requires you that patience and that level of investment. Anyway, I think the actors here, which kind of a mix from the emerging and established actors, they did a great job here, everyone. Now, as for the themes, because this is a show with a lot of subplots, so there will be a lot of themes. There will be themes about faith, and themes about prejudice, more themes about misogyny. But then again, by episode 6, there's another layer of theme that's inserted, which is if humanity is really worth saving from itself. I kept mentioning episode 6 because that is where the answers to most of the questions will come out, especially regarding the backstory of Amalia Chu here. And I guess it goes to an entirely exciting and different direction. Now, I gotta be honest, the way they handled episode 6, I think the tone is messy. It could have been better. It's not perfectly executed, but you know, you can see some hints of this master plan that Joss Whedon originally intended, and I got excited because I was reminded of a favorite TV show of mine that I'm not gonna say what it is because I might spoil some of the upcoming twists and theories for the part 2 of the show. So as I've said, this is a show where it has a lot of questions. You find yourself asking what are the main motivations of these characters, sometimes what is actually happening. I don't think the show even answers why the show is called The Nevers. Usually I get turned off by those shows that drag the mystery too long, but I don't know, there's something in the script and the performances that are so likable for me, so I just took it as a challenge. Mostly it's light and easy to binge, so there's that quality into it. Maybe one can make an argument that they drag the mystery too long, but I'm telling you, when you get to episode 6, you will be blown away. No matter how messy it might seem. If you've seen the movie Cabin in the Woods, that's also written by Joss Whedon. You think that's just a campy horror movie, then he changes it up to sci-fi upon the 3rd act. So something like that happens here. So for part 2, my hopes are for Philippa Goslet as the showrunner. I hope a more focused show because it seemed like episode 6 became an exposition dump, and I wish that earlier episodes have hinted, though there are some hints, but it's just jarring when it comes to tone. I also wish that the show kind of paces itself a bit slower, like focus on a few subplots first. It's like they're doing 2 seasons worth of story here. That's the impression that I'm getting with all the things that's happening here and all the characters that are introduced up to the very last minute. I want them to feel less hollow. But as for the main characters here, Amalia Chu and Penance, I think their friendship is the core heart of the show. I really like their dynamic. So overall, The Nevers starts off something as a show that you already know or you might have seen on other shows, like a standard superhero fanfare with relevant themes about feminism and empowerment on the minority, but it's actually way more ambitious and broader than what initially promises it to be. So I hope that they are able to pull this one off, because I'm sensing that part 2 can either be better and will retroactively give value to part 1, or it can be a disaster that will make me get turned off by the show. I just want the show to feel less modeled and pace itself. I really do like the risk-taking approach here. I do like the characters even though some of them are thinly written. But I gotta be objective. I'm gonna give this season 1 part 1 a 3.5 out of 5. I can see a lot of potential of this show, and it's a shame because I'm seeing a lot of negative reviews for this show, and I think they're only doing reviews based on the first 3 or 4 episodes because the payoff really is mostly on the 6th episode. So that's it for my review of The Nevers. Let me know if you've seen this show, what do you think? Hit them on the comment sections down below. Also, if you enjoyed watching this video, please give us a like and subscribe to us for weekly content. Thank you so much guys for watching. Until then, see you on the next one.